ಶಾರದಾಂ ಚಂದ್ರಮೌಳೀಶಂ ರತ್ನಗರ್ಭಗಣೇಶ್ವರಂ ಶಂಕರಂ ಚರ್ಷ್ಯಶೃಂಗೇಶಂ ತುಂಗಾಂ ಲೋಕಗುರುನ್ ಭಜೆ. ಶಾಸ್ತ್ರಾಬ್ಧಿಪಾರದೃಶ್ವಾನಂ ಸಂಗಹೀನಂ ತಪೋನಿಧಿಂ ಭಜೆ ಶ್ರೀ ಭಾರತೀತೀರ್ಥಗುರುಂ ಭದ್ರೌಖದಾಯಕಂ. ವಿಧುವಜ್ಜಗದಾನಂದಸಂಧಾಯೀ ಗುರುಶೇಖರಃ ಮಾನಸೇ ಸನ್ನಿಧತ್ತಾಂ ಮೇ ವಿಧುಶೇಖರಭಾರತೀ. ಪ್ರಮಾಣನಖನಿರ್ಭಿನ್ನಮಹಾಮೋಹಾಮರಾರಯೇ ನಮಸ್ಕುರ್ಮೋ ನೃಸಿಂಹಾಯ ಸ್ವಪ್ರಕಾಶಚಿದಾತ್ಮನೆ. ತಾರಾನಾಯಕಶೇಖರಾಯ ಜಗದಾಧಾರಾಯ ಧಾರಾಧರಚ್ಛಾಯಾಧಾರಕಕಂಧರಾಯ ಗಿರಿಜಾಸಂಗೈಕಶೃಂಗಾರಿಣೇ ನದ್ಯಾಶೇಖರಿಣೇ ದೃಶಾತಿಲಕಿನೇ ನಾರಾಯಣೇ ನಾಸ್ತ್ರಿಣೇ ನಾಗೈಃ ಕಂಕಣಿನೇ ನಗೇನ ಗೃಹಿಣೇ ನಾಥಾಯ ಸೇಯನ್ನತಿಃ. Offering my Sashtanga Pranamas to the Pada Padmas of the Ubhaya Jagadgurus. We will be assembling for 3 days here onwards to discuss a text called the Shiva Tattva Rahasya. This is a text composed by the great scholar, philosopher Neelakantha Dikshita, who was a descendant of the renowned Appaya Dikshitendra. It is a commentary on the 108 names of Shiva, what we commonly know today as the Shiva Ashtottara Shatanama Stotra. In Sanatana Dharma, we have the opportunity of having diversity of practice, but unity of a goal. Every single acharana, every single custom, practice, method of worship that has been prescribed for us has one goal and one goal alone in its mind, which is the realization of Ishwara's true nature. We can name it many things. You can call it Jnana, you can call it yoga, you can call it bhakti, you can call it whatever you want. At the end of the day, the final goal is that we realize what Ishwara's true nature is. That being the case, of all the paths that we have, this concept of Nama Sankirtana or Namarchana occupies a status of special prominence. The idea that the name of Bhagavan itself is enough to understand who Bhagavan truly is. This is perhaps the strongest strength, the greatest strength that Sanatana Dharma has had. Because temples may go and come, texts may also go and come, but one thing that you cannot let go of is speech. Anything that you can say can never be removed from you. So our rishis and our forebears have ensured that everything we need is on the tip of our tongue. You do not need anything more. If you can understand what you are saying, that is enough to get you to where you are supposed to go. So keeping this in mind, the use of names is very extensive in Sanatana Dharma. We see this pretty much everywhere we go. It is why the concept of Sahasranamas are so popular. And amongst the Sahasranamas, we see that the Vishnu Sahasranama and the Lalita Sahasranama have a particular status. They have a very elevated status simply because these stotras are so Vedantic. Their import is so Vedantic in nature that a true seeker can use that Sahasranama alone in order to properly understand Ishwara. So, since not everyone has the time to tell 1,000 names every day, our rishis have also given us Ashtottara Shatanamavalis, that is to say sets of 108 names. So these are usually what we use for daily worship. So those of you who have a salagrama or a linga or any such devataradhana at home will know that the standard count for daily worship is these Ashtottara Shatanamavalis, these 108 names. Sahasranamas are used for any specific days. If there is a specific festival or if there is a particular observance, then we will use all 1,000 names. But otherwise 108 names are enough for daily use. And why 108? There are many speculations on this. One is that it is the first multiple of 9 past 100. So 100 is a complete number. 9 is also considered a complete number. It is the last single digit numeral that we can use. So for that reason, 9, the number 9 is very important. 9, 18, 27, 54, 72, these multiples of 9 are used in a very specific way. So 108 is the first multiple of 9 past 100. So it is a very nice number to have. That aside, in these Ashtottara Shatanamavalis, every Devata has one. These are mostly found in the Puranas and the Agamas. But just as the Vishnu Sahasranama and the Lalita Sahasranama stand apart in the Sahasranama Stotras, the Shiva Ashtottara Shatanama Stotra stands apart. It has a specific distinction amongst all the Ashtottara Shatanama Stotras. There are many concepts that are conveyed in it, which if we understand, we will surely have a better understanding of who Ishwara is and what his relationship with the world is and what our relationship with him is. So that being kept in mind, this Shiva Ashtottara Shatanama Stotra has had many commentaries on it. One more such commentary that is very famous is the Shivanama Kalpalatala Vala. This is written by Bhaskara Raya, whom we know as the famed commentator of the Lalita Sahasranama Stotra. But he has also written a commentary on these 108 names, interestingly in verse. So each name is expounded upon in a shloka. So that is one such text. But we have taken up the Shiva Tattva Rahasya, the text of Neelakantha Dikshita, as it is far more detailed. He provides many more details, and he is exactly like Appaya Dikshitendra in that he is encyclopedic in nature. He will quote the Upanishads, he will quote the Puranas, he will quote Mahabharata, he will quote Shaiva Agamas, he will quote Ramayana. We can barely find a text that he has not quoted. So he has, the reason why he has also quoted so many texts is simple. The point is to show that all of Sanatana Dharma's texts, the texts that are written by rishis, when we say Sanatana Dharma's texts, we mean the texts that rishis have written. So all of these texts are united in their vision. These are not conflicting texts, these are not confusing texts, but all these various granthas are pointing towards one end. So to show that he has drawn extensively from many sources, and of course, as I said, he has also used the Shaiva Agamas. So the Agamas have to be used very carefully in Sanatana Dharma, because Agamas are sectarian in nature. The Shruti, Smriti and Puranas are not sectarian. The Shruti, Smriti and Puranas are universal. However, Agamas are sectarian in that they are dedicated to one deity alone to the exclusion of all else. Which is why the Pancharatra Agamas will focus on Vishnu to the exclusion of all else. The Shaiva Agamas will focus on Shiva to the exclusion of all else, so on the Shakta Agamas, so on and so forth. So when we use the Agamas, we have to be very careful that they do not contradict what the rishis have said. Because the Agamas are not treated as Apaurushaya. The Agamas are very much the works of humans. So what Shankara Bhagavat Padacharya has done is, he has written also in the Sutra Bhashya that we do not have conflict with the Agamas as such. Whether it is the Vaishnava Agamas or the Shakta Agamas or the Shaiva Agamas, we have no quarrel with them. However, any time that they oppose the Upanishads, any time that they oppose the conclusions of Sanatana Dharma, any time that they oppose Veda, we reject them. We accept the Agamas only so far as they are in line with the Upanishads. And this is what a true Sanatana Dharmi would have to say. Anyone with an unbiased mind, anyone who seeks to know what Vedamata has told us will have to stand on the same platform. Because we can take the Smritis and Puranas because they are the word of Vyasa Maharshi. So the Vedas, then Vyasa Maharshi. Anyone else has to bow their head to the Vedas. There is no other individual's word whom we will take at that level. So if anyone has said anything else that contradicts what the Vedas have said, we are not prepared to accept that. As far as the Agamas give us things that do not contradict the Vedas, we are more than happy to follow those. For example, how to do a Linga Pratishtha, who can do a Linga Pratishtha, what are the different types of Lingas, what are the different forms of Shiva that should be worshipped, where should they be placed in the Devalaya. Vedas and Smritis will only give you so much information. To know all of this, you need the Agamas. This does not contradict the Vedas. However, the second you say that this is the only form of Bhagavan and in his highest nature he does have a form, you have contradicted the Vedas. So we will not take such portions. So in this way, same goes for Vaishnava Agamas. What salagramas are of which devata, how to worship salagramas, what are the forms of Vishnu, what are the vyuhas of Vishnu, how to conceptualize Vishnu as Ishwara. All of this we do not mind looking at the Pancharatra Agamas for. However, the second you say something that is contradictory to the Vedas, that the Jiva was born from this vyuha, then something else was born from that vyuha, we are not prepared to take all of that simply because it is not there in the Vedas, in the Upanishads. The same goes for Shaktagamas as well. So here, what Nilakantha Dikshita has done is, he has seamlessly integrated the Shaiva Agamas, the Vedic portions of the Shaiva Agamas, with what the Upanishads truly do want to tell us. Which is why we will see that a lot of people do have many questions these days. Simply because, as we know a few centuries ago, conflicts between Shaivas and Vaishnavas were rampant. They continue to this day, albeit to a very, in a very smaller scale. However, it is very easy to see what the conceptualization of Vishnu as Ishwara is. So then there is Vishnu, there are 4 vyuhas, then there are certain lokapalakas, all of that. The concept of the Vaishnava universe, that is to say, when you keep Vishnu as Ishwara, or when Ishwara is viewed as Vishnu, what is the form of worship that we do? That is very popular. However, it is less popular these days to see what do you do if it is Shiva. What is the way that we view Shiva as Ishwara in? How do you view Shiva as Ishwara? What are the aspects of his worship in that nature? What are the names that are used? So on and so forth are objects of knowledge that we should be trying to get. So those have also been described in this Shiva Tattva Rahasya. So various murtis of Shiva that we do not know of. There is one text in specific that he refers to called the Vatula Shuddha. So this Vatula Shuddha is nearly encyclopedic when it talks about the worship of Shiva. Almost 25 different murtis of Shiva are talked about. So all of that we'll discuss as well. So in this way, the 108 names of Shiva are unique, they are distinct, and they will be the subject matter of today and the next 2 days. Of course, for those of us who do not have the time to do even 108 names, there are of course sets of even smaller names. For example, for Ganapati, I doubt how many people actually know all 108 names. What we know is Sumukhashcheka, Dantashchaka, Pilogaja, Karnaka, 60 names we know. Nobody knows what the Ashtottara Shatanama is. Unless you are doing Vinayaka Chaturthi Puja. That is the only time perhaps that any of us look at the Ashtottara Shatanamavali for Ganapati. So in this way, 16 names are there. More common is the Dvadashanama Stotras. So this also you would have seen. Hanuman, Anjana, Sonar, Vayuputra, Mahavalaha, Rameshtaf, Phalguna. This famous stotra is there. This is the Hanumad or the Anjaneya Dvadashanama Stotra. So the concept of there being stotras wherein there are 12 names. This is also famous. Specifically for Shiva, there are 8 names that are in specific use. This also we know. Bhavaya Devaya Namaha, Sharvaya Devaya Namaha, Ishanaya Devaya Namaha, Pashupataya Devaya Namaha, Rudraya Devaya Namaha, Ugraya Devaya Namaha, Bhimaya Devaya Namaha, Mahate Devaya Namaha. These 8 names, Bhava, Sharva, Pashupati, Rudra, Ugra, Mahadeva, Ishana, all these 8 names are specific to Shiva in that if you are doing Lingarchana, these 8 names are also enough if you are not telling the Ashtottara every day. Ashtottara is usually told. In fact, we are speaking from a stage that has been sanctified numerous times by the Chandramauleshwara Puja of the Jagadgurus. So even when the Jagadgurus do Chandramauleshwara Puja, it is this very same Ashtottara Shatanama. People wonder, right? When Acharya is putting so many flowers, what is Acharya telling? It is this very same Ashtottara Shatanamavali of Sadashiva. So although 108 names is the norm, these 8 names of Shiva especially are also very particular in their efficacy. So those form a subset of the 108 names. So we will be discussing those as well. It's 9 hours that we have over 3 days and there are 108 names. So the run rate is slightly high. That being said, I do want to go through all 108 names. However, that will mean that we will have to go faster in some places and slower in other places. Right? When we write exams, it is the usual. Answers that we know will go quickly, answers that we don't know will take a longer period of time. So in the same way, we will do the same. So here, this Shiva Ashtottara Shatanama Stotra has been given to us in the Skanda Purana. So in the Skanda Purana, Parvati Devi asks Sriman Narayana, Sharirardhamaham Shambhoho Yena Prapsyami Keshava Tadidanim Mamachakshva Stotram Shighra Phalapradam. First of all, am I audible? Is the sound clear? So Devi is asking Keshava, Vishnu, tell me a stotra through which I can obtain half the body of Shiva. So Devi is clear in her goal. She wants to get the Ardha Sharira of Shiva. So what stotra should I praise Shiva with in order to achieve that? So obtaining half the body of Shiva is indeed a philosophical concept. It is not just that, Devi was running out of real estate, so she wanted to expand into a new market. It is that the Jiva wants to find unity with Ishwara. The Jiva does not want to be separate. As long as the Jiva is separate, dukkha is mandatory. It is not even a possibility, it is a reality. So the Jiva therefore seeks to be in the proximity or indeed merge into Ishwara. That is what is symbolized by Devi seeking half the body of Shiva. So here the Devi has asked for a stotra. So there are certain differences in the terms that are used. So a stotra means the definition that is given is Guninishta Gunabhidhanam Stotram. The vocalization of existing qualities is a stotra. So praises are of two kinds. Those that are true and those that are false. Right? Not every praise that we do is indeed a quality that is seen in the person in front of us. But when you praise someone based on qualities that they do indeed possess, that is called a stuti or a stotra. So Devi is asking Mahavishnu here not just for some upasana. These are not qualities that belong to some other entity that are being imposed on Shiva. But these are all qualities that belong to Shiva. So it is not that Brahman is separate, Shiva is separate, the qualities of Brahman are being imposed on Shiva. It is that Shiva is Brahman. Parabrahman does appear as Shiva, and it is those qualities of Parabrahman that are innate in Shiva. It is those qualities that I want to hear about. To which Narayana responds, Asti guhyatamam gauri namnam ashtottaram shatam. There is indeed an Ashtottara Shatanama Stotra. Shambhoraham pravakshyami pathatam shighra kamadam. I will now tell you those names. So those names are now in your hand. You have all 108 names in front of you. And because these Ashtottara Shatanamas are technically stotras, there will be a Rishi Devata and a Chandas. They have given Narayana Rishi, Anushtup Chandaha, Sadashivo Devata. So it is, we do not do this for Ashtottara Shatanamavalis, but for the sake of general knowledge, I am saying that those of you that have had Mantropadesha from a Guru, you will know that you do the Rishi, Devata and Chandas. Why is it that those three spots are chosen? Bhagavad Pada has explained in the Prapanchasara Tantra that because the Rishi is the Guru's feet are to be placed on the head, which is why the Rishi is meditated upon here. The Chandas refers to the meter that the speech is set in, therefore it resides in the mouth. The Devata is to be meditated upon in the center of the heart, which is why the Devata is placed here. And here we see that the Devata is Sadashiva. So Shiva, of course, has many epithets. In that you have Sadashiva, Paramashiva, Sambashiva, all of these are there. So why Sadashiva? That also we will see later on. And then the Dhyana shloka of the Shiva Ashtottara Shatanamavali is also told. Dhavala Vapusham Indor Mandale Sannivishtam Bhujagavalayaharam Bhasma Digdhangamisham Harina Parashupanim Charu Chandrardha Maulim Hridaya Kamala Madhye Santatam Chintayami. This is the Dhyana shloka of the Sadashiva, who is the object of this Ashtottara Shatanamavali. Dhavala Vapusham, he is pure white in color. Indor Mandale Sannivishtam, he is to be meditated upon as sitting within the orb of the moon. This is also prevalent in many devatas. For example, Hayagriva, in the Vaishnava Sampradaya, Hayagriva especially is meditated upon as being within the orb of the moon. So, in fact, there is a stotra, Hayavadanam Industhitamaye. The Hayagriva is meditated upon as being within the orb of the moon. The same goes for Shiva here. Bhujagavalaya Haram, he is adorned by garlands of snakes. Bhasma Digdhangam, He is smeared all over with ash. Harina Parashu Panim. He holds in his hands the Harina, a deer, and a Parashu, an axe. Along with this, because these two have been told, we must also understand that the Abhaya and Varada mudras are also there. The form of Shiva that usually has the deer and the axe also has the Abhaya and Varada mudras. Charu Chandrardha Maulim, the crescent moon on his head. Hridaya Kamala Madhya Santatam Chintayami. I meditate upon that Shiva within the lotus of the heart. So, one more thing that we find in this Ashtottara Shatanamavali is this form of Bhagavan. The fact that he has snakes, the fact that he has the moon on his head, he is smeared in ash. What does this mean? Why does Bhagavan appear this way? Because while it is true that Sanatana Dharma says that Bhagavan appears in any form that the Bhakta meditates upon him in, it is also equally true that the people who have meditated upon Bhagavan and seen Bhagavan are not people who choose random forms. So the fact that Bhagavan has appeared to certain people in certain forms is because the rishis who have meditated upon Bhagavan in a certain way have understood Bhagavan's tattva. They have understood his true nature. That nature will be latent in the form that Bhagavan takes. So when we say that in Bhagavan's form, this actually represents this represents this, these are not things that we come up with. These are not left to our creative imagination. These are the physical manifestations of truths that the rishis have realized. Which is why it is in fact a very interesting situation in that we will only say that Bhagavan does not have any one form, you can worship him in any form. And immediately we will only say that you should only worship the forms of Bhagavan that the rishis have seen. In Sanatana Dharma you will see both these statements made. Because Bhagavan does have the capability to appear in any which form. He is omnipotent. You cannot say that he cannot appear in a particular form. So then the question becomes, what should I worship? You should worship whatever will give you the highest goal. You do not know what that is. There have been other people who do know that. So you do what they did. And if you do exactly what they did, it follows that you will also receive what they have received. So for that reason, the form of Bhagavan, the symbolism of the form of Bhagavan is not something that we should try to creatively interpret. In fact, the other day I saw one thing. Because in this day and age especially, anything can be made to sound wise. And the thought of saying something very profound is very easy. One person was saying, why should we chase after these fleeting trifles of the earth when there is a permanent pleasure that awaits us? So this sounds very profound. Immediately, why do we seek the heavens which we cannot see when the earth is bountiful in front of us? This is the exact opposite, but this sounds equally profound. Right, so the point being that if you say anything in the right way, it can be made to sound profound. So therefore, profundity does not lie in the creativeness of the person who is expressing it, but rather in the subject matter. Therefore, when we are saying what Bhagavan's form actually means, it is all very well that we are all intelligent individuals, but however, there is something called Shastra and the fact that there are rishis who know what they have seen. So better that we rely on their interpretation, because as soon as Ganesha Chaturthi comes, you will see small eyes means don't look out, big trunk means take in more. Everyone will come up with their ideas of what Ganapati actually means. But the fact remains that the rishis do have a particular tattva in mind. There is some concept of Ishwara that is manifesting in a form. Which is why in the Lalita Sahasranama you do have what everything is, that the goad is Krodha, the Pasha is Raga, the bow is the Manas, the arrows are the 5 Tanmatra. There is a reason why this is being told. Right? Nothing is stopping us from saying that the 5 arrows are also the Panchabhutas. I mean, the number 5 is also there. However, that is not what the Rishi has felt, therefore that is not what the Rishi has seen. So why is it that Shiva looks a certain way? Why does he have ash? Why does he have the moon? Why does he hold a deer? What is the significance of a Trishula? All of this, the usual questions that we have as to why Shiva looks the way that he does, will be answered. And indeed, this is even more pertinent for Shiva, because there is perhaps no Devata in Sanatana Dharma who has more of a spectrum of forms than Shiva, or more odd forms than Shiva. Indeed, his name is Virupaksha, he who has odd eyes. Right? So Shiva's forms go from no form, that is to say a linga, to the most, there are forms of Shiva that have 64 faces. that we see in Mantra Shastra. There is one particular Dhyana Murti of Shiva that has 64 faces. To meditate upon one face itself, we are struggling so much. There are 64 faces in one form. So all of these forms of Shiva are there. There are dancing forms, sitting forms, meditating forms. There are forms where he is wearing ornaments, forms where he is not wearing anything, forms where he is peaceful, forms where he is terrific. So this kind of a range in the various forms that Shiva has, probably we do not find. The only other place where you will probably find it is Devi, simply because she complements him in every form that he takes. So all the questions that we have in iconography, story, all of this also gets answered in the sequence of these 108 names. For those of you that have seen my talks on the Lalita Sahasranama, etc., there, because it was 1,000 names, we had the convenience of grouping. Today we'll take names about Vedanta, today we'll take names about sadhana. Here there is no such grouping. We'll be going from beginning to the end, which we can do simply because it is an Ashtottara Shatanamavali. So first, let us just read off the stotra and then we will get into the meaning. One more thing is the Ashtottara Shatanamavali appears in two forms. Even if you look on the internet, which we usually look at these days, we will find that there will be two options, Ashtottara Shatanamavali and Ashtottara Shatanama Stotra. You will find both. What is the difference? When we worship Bhagavan, you are supposed to put the name into the Chaturthi Vibhakti, the Sampradana, and add the word Namaha at the end. We'll discuss the word Namaha later, but Namaha basically means Namaskara, this prostration. So, to that Devata Namaskara, which is why the name will be put into the Chaturthi Vibhakti. In the Stotra, the names will all usually be in the Prathama Vibhakti, in the nominative case. This is so that you can memorize the Stotra. Because to memorize verse is always easier. It is far easier to memorize verse than prose. So, the Shiva Ashtottara, you can look at the names in front of you. I think those are in Chaturthi Vibhakti. What I am telling now is the Stotra. So, even if you don't tell it with the Namaha every time, the Stotra can be chanted at home. As I tell the meaning of each name, I will tell you what it will be in the Chaturthi Vibhakti. Any one of these names that you like, you can put Namaha at the end and do japa of as a mantra. There is no holds on that at all. Any name that you feel is profound, any name that you like, any name that conveys a particular tattva, you can add Namaha to the end and do japa of it as many times as you want, every day, whenever you want, wherever you want. The fact that these are Nama mantras are meant for us to be able to enjoy and contemplate on at all times. These are not bija mantras wherein their use is restricted only to times where we are in madi. These are names that can be told anytime, anywhere, any place. So those are these names. The Ashtottara Shatanama Stotra goes like this. Shivo Maheshwara Shambhu Pinaki Shashishekharah Vamadevo Virupakshaha Kapardi Neelalohitaha Shankara Shulapanischa Khatvangi Vishnuvallabhaha Shipi Vishtombikanathah Shrikantho Bhaktavatsalaha Bhavash Sharvas Trilokeshaha Shitikantha Shivapriyaha Ugrah Kapali Kamarihi Andhakasura Sudanaha Gangadharo Lalatakshaha Kalakalah Kripanidhihi Bhimaf Parashuhastascha Mragapanir Jatadharaha Kailasavasi Kavachi Kathoras Tripurantakaha Vrishanko Vrishabharudho Bhasmodhulita Vigraha Samapriyas Svaramayaha Trayemurtiranishvaraha Sarvajnaf Paramatmacha Soma Suryagni Lochanaha Havir Yajnamayas Somaha Panchavaktras Sadashivaha Vishveshwaro Veerabhadro Gananathaf Prajapatihi Hiranyareta Durdharsho Girisho Girisho Naghaha Bhujanga Bhushano Bhargo Giridhanva Giripriyaha Krittivasaf Puraratir Bhagavan Pramathadhipaha Mrityunjayas Sukshmatanur Jagadvyapi Jagadguruhu Vyomakesho Mahasena Janakas Charu Vikramaha Rudro Bhutapatisthanur Ahirbuddhyo Digambaraha Ashtamurtir Anekatma Satvika Shuddha Vigraha Shashvatah Khandaparashuhu Ajaf Pasha Vimochakaha Mridaf Pashupatir Devo Mahadevo Vyayo Harihi Pushadanta Bhidavyagro Dakshadhara Haro Haraha Bhaganetra Bhidavyaktas Sahasrakshas Sahasrapata Apavarga Pradonantas Tarakaf Parameshwaraha. These are the 108 names. Many of these we have seen before. And one more nice thing that Nilakantha Dikshita does in this is that he shows us where this name comes from. Does it occur in Veda? Does it occur in Mantra Shastra? Does it occur in the Puranas? He will show us where this name is found. And indeed, knowing that this name is not just a human concoction, but indeed it has been drawn from Vedic literature, gives us more faith to do it as a mantra. It reaffirms our belief that this is not just a name, but there is a higher power to this name, which is indeed a mantra. So, keeping that in mind, we are now entering the first name, Shiva. There is no better name for Paramatma than Shiva. Probably those of you that heard me do the Lalita Sahasranama, you would have heard me say that there is no better name for Paramatma than Lalita. And if you have heard me speak on Vishnu Sahasranama, you would have also heard me say that there is no better name for Vishnu than for Bhagavan than Vishnu. All three statements are correct, because every name is positioned such that it will give you all angles of Ishwara in one name. So the Vyakhyana for the name Shiva indeed goes for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, almost 8 pages. So the name Shiva has been commentated upon for 8 pages. We do not have to go into all the minutiae, but I do want to take some time, at least in the beginning, to show you how much scope these names have. We say Namah Shivaya every day, but do we understand how much is packed into that name? Out of all the names of Paramatma, especially of Paramatma as Shiva, why is it that Shiva is the king amongst mantras? They call it Panchakshari Mantra Raja, or Panchakshari Raja, or Srimat Panchakshari. It is never referred to just as Panchakshari in our Shastras. There is always an honorific associated with it. Why is it that the name Shiva is so important? So there, many meanings are given. The first, simplest meaning is that the word Shiva means that which is auspicious. In the Amarakosha you have Swashreyasam Shivam Bhadram Kalyanam Mangalam Shubham Bhavukam Bhavikam Bhavyam Kushalam Kshemam Astriyam. These are all the words that mean auspiciousness. So he who is auspicious is Shiva. What does it mean to be auspicious? That is what the rest of the meanings will talk about. The main meaning is he who is auspicious. So there is no doubt in that. What does it mean to be auspicious? In what way is he auspicious? The other meanings of the name talk about that. The first meaning obviously is that if you have auspicious qualities, you are an auspicious person. And this is a straightforward distinction. What are the auspicious qualities of Paramatma? And it is one more thing that the qualities that are auspicious need to be there permanently in you if you are to be permanently auspicious. So whatever qualities it is that we are seeking, they should be in Paramatma permanently. Those auspicious qualities should be permanently there in Paramatma if we are to say that Paramatma is permanently auspicious. So what are those? There the Purana is telling us that Sarvajñata Tripti Ranadibodha Swatantrata Nityam Alupta Shakti Ananta Shaktischa Vibhor Vidhignaha Shadahurangani Maheshwarasya. For Shiva, when you are worshipping Shiva, there are 6 qualities that are innate in him and are permanent in him. The first one is Sarvajñata. He knows everything. There is nothing in this world that he does not know. Triptihi. He knows everything and he does not need anything. He is Purnakama. He does not desire anything. He is always content. Anadibodha. This knowledge that he has is not knowledge that he has obtained at some point of time. It is primordial. Just as the knowledge of the pot is not something that the potter has obtained only after the pot has been made. The potter knows everything about the pot even before it has been made. In the same way, Paramatma, being the creator of this cosmos, knows everything about the cosmos before even the cosmos had come into material being. Then Alupta Shakti. Alupta Shakti means many capabilities that we have deteriorate over time. That is why we have eyeglasses and listening machines, etc., etc. Right? Many capabilities that we once had do not always stay with us. However, it is the nature of Paramatma that his capabilities are permanent. They do not deteriorate over time. And then Nityam Alupta Shaktihi Ananta Shaktischa. And it is also not that he has a limited amount of capability that is permanent, but he has unlimited capability that is permanent. So these 6 aspects are permanent in Paramatma. So because he has these 6 auspicious qualities at all times, he is called Shiva. Now here, there is one more meaning that is given in the higher sense. Why are we saying that having auspicious qualities is what makes him auspicious? In fact, in the highest sense, not having qualities is what makes him the most auspicious. Because as long as there is a touch of the three gunas, it is not the Advaita Parabrahman. Only when there is no touch of the gunas at all, can we say that something is truly unchanging. Because as long as the gunas are there, the gunas will always effectuate change. The nature of the gunas is that they will make something that will keep changing. So the only way to say that there is a permanent entity is to say that it is beyond the three gunas. Indeed, forget about the Shiva Ashtottara. In the Vishnu Sahasranama Stotra, when the Sarva Sharva Shivasthanuhu, when the name Shiva comes in the Vishnu Sahasranama, Bhagavatpada gives this very same meaning. Nistrayigunyatvat nirvikalpako bhavati shuddho bhavati iti Shivaha. He is called Shiva because he is pure, meaning that he is beyond the three gunas. So, the form that he takes upon, his true nature, is not that of the three gunas. His true nature is beyond them. Because of that he is pure, because of that he is auspicious. Therefore, it is told in the Tantras. In fact, here he has quoted the Shruti. Nishkalam nishkriyam shantam niravadyam niranjanam iti shrutehe. So, because the Upanishad talks about this Paramatma as Nishkalam, it is indivisible. Nishkriyam, it does not have any action. Niravadyam niranjanam, there are no qualities that can be ascribed to it. And immediately he is showing the Shaiva Agama. So, as we said, the Agama we will take only so long as we can show a corresponding Vedic concept. So, exactly here they are showing the Shaiva Agama Vachana, which says Shiva Tattva Mahasena Nishkalantiti Kirtitam. So, this Shiva Tattva that we are discussing of Paramatma is Nishkala. It is indivisible and without any particular qualities. Then there is one more meaning that is there, that the Shobhanatva, that is to say the auspiciousness of Shiva as opposed to the Jiva, is that Shiva lacks three impurities that the Jiva has, therefore he is pure. So purity can mean having qualities, having auspicious qualities, not having any qualities at all, and now we are saying not having any quality that would cause an impurity. So in the Shaiva Agamas or in the Shaiva Siddhanta, there are three flaws that are innate to all Jivas, due to which the Jiva acts as a Jiva. If the Jiva can get rid of these three flaws, he will be able to merge into Ishwara. So what are these three? These are called Anava, Karmana and Mayeya doshas. So the first one is called Anava, that is to say that relating to the Anu, Anur Jivaha. The Jiva is referred to as Anu, not because he is actually occupying that space, but because he is subtle. Just as an atom is subtle, the Jiva too is subtle. So he is called an Anu. The nature of the Jiva to be confined by the Upadhi, that is to say the nature of the Jiva to be confined by the mind, to say that I am what is limited by the mind, is the Anava dosha, is what it is called. Then next you have the Karmana dosha, that is to say the dosha relating to karma. The Jiva across many lifetimes has performed many actions with abhimana, that is to say with the strong rooted belief that I am performing this action for my sake. Because of this, the karma phala becomes attached to him, due to which he has to take birth upon birth in order to satisfy the karmic debt that he has to the universe. This is not present in Paramatma. So this is the Karmana dosha, wherein the Jiva attaches himself to karma. The third dosha that is there is called Mayeya dosha, that is to say the dosha born of Maya. This is the dosha wherein the Jiva sees something that is not there and does not see what is actually there. He does not recognize his true nature as the Atma, although it is with him at all times. He also feels that his physical identity as it relates to the world is permanent, and he feels that that alone is real. So this is the Mayeya dosha. So these three flaws are what force the Jiva to remain as the Jiva for many thousands of births. Because Paramatma is free of all three of these doshas, he is therefore auspicious. And that is also told. Athava ashesha kalyana gunaika ghana ishvaraha Shiva ityuchyate sadbhihi Shiva Tattva Rahasya vedibhihi. This is from the Vayu Samhita of the Shiva Purana. So, because all auspicious qualities find their repository in him, and because there are no flaws in him, he is known as Shiva. Anadi Mala Samshlesha Pragabhavat Svabhavatah Atyanta Parishuddhatme Tyatoyam Shiva Uchyate. Shiva Uchyate. He is called Shiva because Atyanta Parishuddhatma. Because his nature, Svabhavatah. It is not that he has made himself pure. By nature he is pure. So, because by nature he is pure, and therefore Anadi Mala Samshlesha Pragabhavat. He is devoid of any doshas that for all other jivas are anadi. So, as jivas we are anadi, our identity as a jiva has no beginning. Therefore, these three doshas, that we are limited by our upadhi, we are bound by our karma, and we do not see reality as it is. These three doshas have been coming with us since the beginning of time. However, Paramatma has not even the slightest touch of this. That is why they have used the word Pragabhava. That has not ever come into being yet. So, that is the meaning of the shloka there. Then there is one more. Vishuddhi Shivata Swataha Shuddhatvattu Shiva Proktaha. This is one more thing that we have discussed, that he is Shiva because he is free from all qualities. He is Nirguna. Then there is one more meaning that is given, the Shing Dhatu, Shete. The word Shete means to sleep or rest. So, Shete Asmin iti Shivaha. The world rests in him. Therefore, he is called Shiva. So, Shiva, now we have seen some meanings related to auspiciousness. So, now the derivation as per auspiciousness we are setting aside. We are now coming to one more verb root, which is Shete, to sleep. The Jagat rests in him. Therefore, he is called Shiva. Then there is one more name that is given with one more dhatu, Shamyati, to be calm. This Shama, we have heard, right? Shama, Shanti, the same root becomes Shiva, he who is always calm. Which is why in the Upanishad also, this name Shiva is not used to refer to any particular Devata, but it is used to refer to that Nirguna Paramatma. Adrishyam avyavaharyam agrahyam alakshanam achintyam avyapadeshyam ekatma pratyasaram prapanchopashamam shantam shivam advaitam manyante sa atma savigneyaha. Sometimes this mantra, it used to be called the Vaishnava Simhaswapna, because not only has the word Shiva occurred, but it has occurred right next to the word Advaita. So it is the most antithetical statement to their beliefs that we could have seen in the Upanishads. Because you got Prapanchom Shantam, Shivam Advaitam, when talking about the highest Atma. So one Pandita once said that this Veda mantra from the Mandukya Upanishad is called the Vaishnava Simhaswapna, just for fun. So anyway, the point being there is that there the Paramatma is called Shiva because it is qualified right before Prapanchopashamam. When the entire Jagat has come to rest, when will the Jagat come to rest? When there is no more Jagat. By definition, the Jagat cannot be at rest. The word Jagat means Gacchati iti Jagat. It moves forward, it is always changing. So when we say that Prapanchopashamam, it is that Tattva that becomes manifest when the world comes to rest. Means that Tattva that transcends the Jagat, that Tattva that is left after the Jagat goes. So that nature of calmness, that entity that is of that nature of calmness is Shiva. Then there is one more meaning that is given, Vashti iti Shivaha. Vashti is one more dhatu that is there. Vashikantau. Vashti means to desire. Ichchati, to desire. He who desires is Shiva. What does it mean, he who desires? Indeed, here, that is why the meaning they have slightly changed here. So, as per Vyakarana, Vashti should mean Kamana Karta, he who desires. However, here, they have not given the meaning as someone who desires, but rather they have made the meaning, he who is the locus of desire. Why has this change been made? Nilakantha Dikshita, indeed, actually throughout this Shiva Tattva Rahasya, not only gives Vedantic meanings, but there are extended Vyakarana debates as well. He gives the grammatical derivation sometimes at great detail. So here, there are three things that you cannot do out of effort in our Shastras. Jnana, Ichha and Kriti. These three are not Yatna Sadhyas, it is said. That is to say, these three things you cannot work for to get. These three are Jnana, knowledge, Ichha, desire, Kriti, effort. You cannot work towards these. That is to say that you cannot do something that will give you knowledge. What does this mean then? What is the point of all of this? What is the point of all of this then? The point being that when you cook, what do we do? For example, pachati, this verb is there, right? When you cook, what is it that is happening? The word cooking means, in Sanskrit is defined as viklityanukola vyapara, that process through which hard grains of rice become soft. So you can do an object that will give that result. However, with jnana, that is not the case. You do not do something that gives you jnana, but in fact our efforts are towards getting the jnana samagri. So let me give you an example. Pratyaksha jnana, that is to say direct perception. It is enough if you place the object in front of you and open your eye. There is no extra effort needed to receive the perception of the object. Our efforts towards any cognition is only to allow the object to be perceptible and to allow that the instruments of perception are also not limited, or the instruments of perception are able to work properly. If the instrument of perception is working properly and the object is indeed perceptible, there is no other effort required for something to be cognized. Does this make sense? Perhaps this is a bit more abstract. To give the next example, Ichha. Can we ask anyone to forcibly desire something? Is it possible to will yourself to desire something? You cannot make yourself like something, right? In the same way, you cannot make yourself to like something means you cannot call your child and tell him from tomorrow you need to like studying. That will not happen. You cannot force someone to like something because liking is not the result of an effort. Liking is the result of innate tendencies that we have acquired. In the same way, now I think this is much easier to understand. So now let us apply this back to jnana. Jnana too, in the same way, it is not that you can go after a perception. If the instruments of perception are unhindered and the object is also ready, perception will happen whether you want it or not. If your eye is open and the TV is on in front of you, you will see what is there in the TV. There is nothing that can stop this. So when we say we are trying to see something, our effort is in fact not towards the knowledge itself, but the effort is directed towards ensuring that the instruments of perception are unhindered or that the object of perception is available. So it is because, in the same way here also Vashti, it is because desire cannot be forcibly done that the definition of he who desires is not someone who has a desire, but rather someone in whom the capacity to desire is there. This is what we call Ichha Shakti. We would have heard this name, right? Ichha Shakti, Jnana Shakti, Kriya Shakti. These three Shaktis are there. They will be coming later also. But the capability to desire, that is to say the capability to desire to make this entire creation, is known as Ichha Shakti. So when we say Vashti iti Shivaha, he desires, therefore he is Shiva, it then follows that it is not that he is actually desiring something, it is just that the capacity to will something is there in him, is what we mean. And that is also told in a shloka. Himsi dhatos simha shabdaha vashakanto shivasmritaha varna vyatyeta siddha pashyakah kashyapo yatha. So there are some words in Sanskrita where when you flip, you will get the word. For example, pashyaka will become kashyapa. Himsa will become simha. In the same way, vashi, vashikanto is the root. So vashi, when you reverse it, will become Shiva. So Shiva means, now we have one more meaning, that someone who desires or someone who wills. Now we are getting one more meaning here, that let that be. However, there is one more meaning that will give that. No, why do we have to say that he does not desire anything? He does desire. He desires the welfare of everyone in this world. Vashti jagadhitam iti Shivaha. He seeks the welfare of the entire cosmos, therefore he is Shiva. So many Leelas bear testimony to this, drinking the Visha, etc., etc. So that is one more meaning that is given. This is told in the Mahabharata. Samedhayati yan nityam sarvarthanam upakramam shivamichan manushyanam tena devaha shivasmritaha. So for some reason we have this perception that the Mahabharata is a Vaishnava Grantha. The Mahabharata in fact has so many instances where Shiva is also extolled as the Parabrahman. It is just so happens that the main avatara that we see of in the Mahabharata is Mahavishnu, which is why even in the beginning of Mahabharata it says Adirantecha Madhyecha Haris Sarvatra Giyate. Adavantecha Madhyecha Haris Sarvatra Giyate. In the beginning, middle and end of Mahabharata, Vishnu is talked about. Yes, because it is talking about the main events of Krishna Avatara. However, the Mahabharata is very explicit in many places that when we talk about Shiva and Krishna, these are not two separate entities at all. And we will see, there are some stories that we will see today itself that will tell us about that tattva. So, that aside, now we have seen that Shivamichan Manushyanam, because he desires the welfare of all beings, he is called Shiva. Then Yadva Shivam Mangalam Karoti iti Shivaha. Then one more name is there, that what is the nature of auspiciousness? You wish the best for everyone. So wishing the best is one thing. Wishing the best for everyone is one more aspect to this. So because he is equal to all, the Samadarshana, he is equal to all. There is no one who is particularly favorable or opposed to him. Therefore he is Shiva. That is why the Mahabharata tells us in one more place. In fact, Shiva himself is explaining this. Sama bhavanti me sarve danavash chamarashchaye Shivosmi sarva bhutanam shivatvam tena me suraha. Because the devatas, the rakshasas and the manushyas, all of them are equal to me. I do not have any particular favor or disfavor towards any of them. Which is why many people, they will ask, right, why does Shiva give all these boons to Rakshasas? Why do so many Rakshasas pray to Shiva? It is our fault that we are focusing on the Rakshasas. How many Maharshis have not prayed to Shiva? How many Devatas have not prayed to Shiva? It is therefore that we see only in Shiva Puja. It is a particularity of Shiva Puja that the list of Shiva Bhaktas includes everyone. From Rakshasas to Devatas, from animals to humans, there is no class of being that has been left out of Shiva Puja. There is no class of any being in this entire prapancha that has not been the object of Shiva's grace. So this samadarshana, this equanimity, that when you worship me, I will give you the needed fruit. There is no more debate that will be done. And indeed, is that not what Bhagavan has told in the Gita? Ye yatha mam prapadyante tam satheva bhajamyaham. Apichet suduracharo bhajate mam ananya bhag. Bhagavan is very clear in the Gita that samoham sarva bhuteshu namedveshyosti na priyaha. Ye bhajanti tu mam bhaktya mayite teshu chapyaham. I am equal to all beings. I appear equally as the Atma of all beings. There is no one who is dear to me or displeasurable to me. However, those people who seek me out, I grace them accordingly. This shloka, if we see this in practice, that is Shiva. This statement about his own nature that Bhagavan has made in Gita, when put into practice, is the Shiva Tattva. So there is no need to wonder as to why Shiva has given so many boons to Rakshasas. Because it is not that Shiva is the benefactor only for Rakshasas. Right? All the Devatas have, in fact, the entire Kshirsagara Mathana in some way has happened only because of Shiva. The Indra is Indra because of Shiva. If we look at some of the names that we go later on, we will be astounded to see how many stories there are about Shiva gracing so many bhaktas that have been forcibly hidden away from us, such that we do not know that Shiva has also been talked about as Paramatma in our texts. So that nature that I am equal to all, there is no one who will not be an object of my grace. That is one more nature of Shiva. And the last thing that we will talk about is that in some places, Nilakantha Dikshita will give us what we call a Sangraha Shloka. One verse wherein all these meanings will be put in. These are usually verses composed by earlier scholars. So for example here, Shetesmin Jagat Ihate Dishachita Shreyaha Prajanamasau Shantiyati Samasta Mangala Guna Gramaika Simayate Ichhashakti Mupaiti Nirmalataras Chaste Prakrityeti Cha Vyachaste Shivanama Yasya Vibhavam Tasmai Parasmai Namaha. In this one shloka, all the meanings of the Shivanama are there. Shete asmin jagata, we discussed Shete asmin niti Shivaha, the world rests in him. Ihate dishati cha shreyaha, he both is and he desires the welfare of everyone. Then Shantim yati, he is ever calm. Then Samasta Mangala Guna Gramaika Simayate, he is the repository of all auspicious qualities. And Ichha Shakti Mupaiti, he is the basis of Ichha Shakti, willpower. Then Nirmalataras Chaste Prakritya, by his true nature he is Nirguna. Therefore, this name is most apt for him as Shiva. So it is for that reason that the Shiva Nama, because as we see, it goes from our relationship to Bhagavan, that he gives us auspiciousness. What we seek in Bhagavan, that he is calm. Who is Bhagavan? The Adhara for the entire Jagat. And what is Bhagavan's true nature? He is Nirguna. All of these meanings have come into one word, which is Shiva. And then one more thing that, as I said, Neelakantha Dikshita does is that he will give us where this name comes from. So, idam cha shruti prasiddham nama, he will write this. This name is talked about in the Vedas. Namah Shivaya cha Shivataraya cha. This itself is a very profound statement in the Vedas. In the heart of the Vedas, in the heart of Sri Rudra, in the heart of the Namaka, in the heart of that Anuvaka, Namah Somaya cha comes Namah Shivaya cha Shivataraya cha. So that Panchakshari Mantra is there. Tasmat Sarvagata Shivaha Nasanna Chasat Shiva Eva Kevalaha. So there are so many mantras that talk about Shiva. In fact, there is one more mantra that Bhagavatpada quotes in the beginning of the Gita Bhashya. Yada charmavad akasham veshtayishyanti manavaha tada shivam avijñāya. The mantra comes. If a human is able to rip off his skin and use it to cover the sky, only then will someone be able to get moksha without knowing Shiva, is what this name means. That is to say, just as it is impossible to cover the entire sky with our skin, in the same way, it is impossible to get moksha without knowing Shiva, without knowing Paramatma. So the word Shiva refers to that Paramatma who is containing all of the qualities that we have talked about earlier. And one more thing is there, that the Shiva Nama itself is Shiva. So forget about the entity Shiva. The Shiva Nama itself is said to be Shiva, which is why here, interestingly, Neelakantha Dikshita quotes the Srimad Bhagavata, wherein Sati Devi is chastising Daksha. Yad Vyaksharan Nama Gireritan Ranam Sakrit Prasangad Agamashu Hanti Tat Pavitra Kirtim Tam Alanghya Shasanam Bhavanaho Dveshti Shivam Shivetaraha. This is what Sati Devi has told Daksha. Yad Vyaksharan Nama, that two-lettered name, or whose two-lettered name, Sakrit Prasangad Gira Iritam, if it is told once in passing, whose two-lettered name destroys all papas for the bhakta, you think that that person is Amangala. How are you able to say this? Is what Sati Devi has told Daksha. Shivam Dveshti Shivetaraha Bhavani. You are Shivetara. If you have Dvesha towards Shiva, it means that you are not Shiva. It means that you are Amangala. The quality of being Amangala is having dislike towards Shiva. So therefore, someone who has such a name, how could you, O Daksha, possibly categorize him as inauspicious? Because in fact, Daksha had said that he walks in a graveyard, he smears ash upon himself, he does not comb his hair. How can he be auspicious? He is inauspicious, therefore he does not have a place in this yaga. Sati Devi says, forget about the individual. Do you know what his name does to you? If his name is like this, how can you possibly even think that he is not of the most auspicious nature? So this name of Shiva is given to us by the Vedas, and that is why the Panchakshari Mantra is the most illustrious of all Shiva mantras. And indeed, there too, the Shiva Panchakshari Mantra is in itself a Mahavakya. So a Mahavakya refers to any Vakya that teaches us Jiva Brahmaikya. So it is not just the four Mahavakyas that we know. There are many Mahavakyas. Yosavaso Purushassohamasmi. Such Vakyas are Etadvaitat. There are many Vakyas in the Upanishads that do qualify as Mahavakyas because they teach us about the Abheda between the Jiva and Ishwara. This Namah Shivaya is also one such Mahavakya. And there, the Skanda Purana, in the Brahmakhanda, there is a long description therein of the Shiva Mantra and Shiva Tattva. So there it tells us, Namaskarena Jivatvam Shivetra Paramatmani Aikyam Gatam Ato Mantraha Parabrahmamayo Hyasau. So the word Namaha refers to the Jiva. Because this is not mine, I am bending down, I am doing Namaskara. These are all qualities of the Jiva. To be limited, to be bent, to be giving. These are all qualities of the Jiva. So Shivaya, to Paramatma. So the Jiva is being symbolically offered to Paramatma. What happens if you offer a glass of water to the ocean? It merges into the ocean. So Jivatvam Shive Paramatmani Aikyam Gatam. So the concept of the Jiva dissolving into Ishwara or being submitted to Ishwara is Shivaya Namaha. That is why this mantra is Parabrahmamayohyaso. This mantra is a manifestation or a representation of that Brahman whose nature is the Jiva Brahmaikya. So that Namah Shivaya mantra is indeed one of the most efficacious of mantras that we have. So this is a very long description of one name. We have 107 more to go. So after a 10-minute break, we shall come back and resume the rest of the names. 7:30, we'll meet here promptly.